Okay, fighters, you know the rules. Listen to my commands all the time. When I say stop, please stop. Touch gloves. Go back to your corners.
There was a touch of gloves, but this one, more than that, is for a shot at Alexander Volkanovski. There is the Korean Zombie. And there's the new look of Brian T-City Ortega. Zombie in the red, Ortega in the black.
Zombie coming straight in with power punches. Power kick from Brian Ortega.
If you guys could see my man Hardy, he's been standing up for the last 3 fights. He can't even contain himself. This guy's like a kid in the candy store. He loves it.
And there's an eerie quiet about the Flash Forum. Everyone's in anticipation of this. It's a couple of years in the making, but we are finally here.
There's just nothing like a UFC main event, right? Like, no matter where it is, when it's happening, how many people are in the building, there's just these nerves that surround it.
I've dried my hands 5 times already since they rang the bell.
Especially when they're so evenly matched and there's animosity to boot. You know, you're just kind of waiting for something to happen. Zombie's so heavy on that lead leg, he's waiting to counter Brian Ortega, slowly eating away the canvas, forcing him into a boxing range.
Yep, and every time he steps to the side, he takes one little slight step forward, trying to get Brian Ortega close to the side of the octagon, but now he goes back to the middle.
Patient is the Zombie, looking for his counters.
Ortega looks good to this point, doing a good job of popping that jab.
The Zombie said if he'd have faced the Korean Zombie of 2 years ago, he would have absolutely destroyed him. And of course, Brian Ortega with an entirely new team, apart from Henna Gracie, who sadly isn't with us here this evening. We're waiting to see what new tools they've added to his game.
I mean, but just looking at Brian Ortega already, you can see improvements in his stand-up. You can see from the confidence that he feels much more comfortable standing there, opposed to just rushing to get a takedown.
And he said he wanted to look completely recognizable from how we saw him before, and I don't think he meant physically. I think he means skill-wise as well. But he's kind of certainly ticking one of those boxes already.
Yeah, he's already in a longer stance. It's much more of a striking, adapted stance. But I also noticed as they circled past the commentary booth that Brian Ortega has some redness and bruising already on that left leg.
And maybe that's why he switched stances. He started in conventional. He's already fighting southpaw.
Quite possibly. One thing that's worth watching, and I was waiting to see if Brian Ortega had changed it out of his game. When he's under attack, he brings his lead elbow up high. And in previous fights, he's used it as a defensive tactic, but against Frankie Edgar, he used it as an offensive tactic. He was actually able to catch him on the temple on the way in. So Korean Zombie's got to be careful moving through distance onto that lead elbow of Ortega.
Korean Zombie tied for the most performance bonuses in UFC featherweight history. He's been piling on the pounds out of camp, really indulging in a strength and conditioning program to make him even more powerful, which is terrifying.
I know the clamp that he's already got on that squeeze is something that something formidable that Zombie's got to be careful of. If he closes distance, Brian Ortega can clamp onto people like a career rock climber.
But honestly, for the Korean Zombie at this point is behind Brian Ortega. Brian's doing a good job of fighting behind the jab. He's landed a lot of right side, outside leg kicks. And the only time the Zombie has really entered and taken any chances when he threw the double jab right hand. To this point, he hasn't done much more. And Ortega's getting off.
Oh! That was a clean hook, clean right hook from Brian Ortega as Zombie moved into range.
We see Eddie Char in the corner
of
Zombie. He's trying to make Sung Jung more refined with his striking.
Well, Brian Ortega just hurt him there.
For sure. Lots of patience here from both fighters, particularly Ortega.
Two high-level strikers. Oof. Zombie's just waiting to return with power shots, but Ortega's picking at him at the moment, landing some really nice, clean shots and blocking a lot of the return shots from Zombie on his guard.
Zombie off that center line to drive home that right hand. Ortega fires back with kicks.
20 seconds left in the first round. Both of these guys are already going to be sore after this fight. Nice long left hook from the Zombie.
Last 10. Oh.
I mean, right here, you see him come together. Korean Zombie throws a front kick. Ortega catches it and lands a beautiful straight left hand, knocks the Zombie down. Hey, man, that was a very good first round for Brian Ortega. We thought this was going to be striker versus grappler, but in that first round, Ortega did well.
This is kind of reminiscent of that Till-Whitaker battle that we saw here on Fight Island.
You read my mind, John. I was just thinking
a
exactly
real chess match.
It's all about the nuances of movement for both of these guys. They're reading each other. They're using feints. They're trying to set things up. And they're also checking to see how each fighter reacts to the shots that they throw.
And it's stressful.
It is stressful.
Well, when we talked to Korean Zombie on Wednesday or Tuesday, I don't know what the days are here, but one day we talked to the Korean Zombie, and he talked about trying to keep that guy out, right? The Zombie, the guy that just goes into danger. But I think at some point he's going to have to let him out so he can force the fight and make Ortega
well, at least
not
he has
just pick
that,
a shot
right?
at him. Yes.
And also, what about training himself not blinking during the fights as well, so he can see things coming?
Ortega looking for that lead elbow then as he was backed up against the fence.
Good counter there by Zombie. Ortega nice and light on the outside.
The approach of Zombie, though, heavy on that lead leg, quite happy to put himself at striking range in order to try and counter.
Now Ortega takes the center of the octagon with a bit more of a wide stance, shoots in on that single.
Can he finish this takedown? Zombie has excellent takedown defense.
Fantastic takedown defense by the Korean Zombie, but also very smart by Ortega to go and take a shot and just make him think that that takedown's still coming.
Sure. I really like the way that the Zombie got out the way of the elbow that was incoming on the break as well. Showed great awareness. Oh, there you go, DC, to your point. Touches the leg, goes high with the left hand.
Yeah, because now Sung Jung has to respect the takedown because of that attempt.
Dan, you've got to mix your arts.
You have. You've got to mix your martial arts. Both of these guys looking so good, though. I mean, Ortega's looking very, very patient in comparison to previous fights. We know that he takes his time when he's, in those early couple of rounds. This is a very smart approach for him, but look at the marking on Brian Ortega's legs. That right leg, the shin is bruised and red from blocking the Zombie's kicks. And the left leg on the outside calf, which is why he's predominantly standing southpaw, perhaps. It's got some real redness to it. Doesn't seem to be affecting his movement too much.
No, he's still moving very well. He just never gets to go forward, right? He's constantly skating along the fence. The Korean Zombie always has his back to the center of the octagon and keeping him on his back foot.
Oh, what a beautiful uppercut. Up the center channel through the guard of Brian Ortega. Powerful
That's a big
kick.
body kick there from Ortega. Ortega's been using a lot of science since we saw him last. Really felt like he was neglecting certain areas of being a professional athlete. But he's fixed all of that.
That's the thing as well, when you can get as far as Brian Ortega did on, skills alone, when you start adding those other facets to your game, discipline with your eating, oh, beautiful little touch on the inside leg to stifle the attack of Korean Zombie. Very intelligent move.
I love those feints that Brian's showing him, right? Showing him at the leg, showing him up top. Because right now, the Korean Zombie's having a better...
Oh!
Spinning
It's
elbow!
happened again!
Brian Ortega knocks him down with a spinning elbow, reads him coming in.
And they're going to war now.
Zombie's taking these shots. He returns a left hook.
Oh.
Nice uppercut left hook. We've got a firefight, ladies and gentlemen. Called him in perfectly on that spinning elbow.
I mean, how in the world is Sung Jung even still standing?
Takedown for Ortega here.
Yes, very smart by Brian Ortega to go to his wrestling there. His coaches were yelling, Brian, don't mix it up, don't brawl. Take it to the ground, and now he's in complete control.
Nice takedown, and the danger for Zombie is scrambling back to his feet. Short time, less than 10 seconds to go. But a huge round for Brian Ortega with the spinning elbow.
I mean, massive moment because the Korean Zombie was having a good round until he took that big elbow. Korean Zombie's doing really good, but as he starts to enter, look at Brian Ortega. Spin, boom! Oh. Elbow lands, drops the Zombie, hurts him really, really bad. I mean, I had Korean Zombie winning that round up until that. You cannot, I mean, he did nothing wrong. That was just a great technique by Brian Ortega and showing how many more tools he has in the toolbox now.
Good round for Brian Ortega in a fight that's lacked big moments. He certainly gave us one there.
Zombie stretching out his jaw at the start of the second round there. As you were saying, John, in the break, the Yair Rodriguez knockout there, caught him being a little overzealous. I think Zombie felt like Ortega was turning and moving away so he could chase him down and land a power shot in retreat. But Ortega set him up perfectly, drifted away, chopped a spinning elbow right to the jaw. And you can see Zombie still stretching his jaw out. Is there an injury there, perhaps?
It's also about game planning, right? When you're fighting Yair Rodriguez, you expect those things. You don't expect those things against a Brian Ortega. But that's the old Brian Ortega, not the guy that's in there right now.
Now you do.
And that, as I said, that lead elbow was what started off the Frankie Edgar knockout. He uses that as a guard, but in that fight particularly, he turned it into a weapon. And now we're seeing developments in the game, the elbow game of Brian Ortega. I do like the fact that he switched it up and went for the takedown in the second round as well, just to continue making this a mixed martial arts fight.
I'm not looking to disagree, but I look back to that Ortega-Edgar fight, and the elbow really set things up for him there, and he was trying to get his elbow off against Holloway as well, but he's certainly refining that technique.
Holloway's a far more patient fighter. He stays at range and uses the full length of his arms, whereas Zombie, as you can see, is heavy on that lead leg. Tap, tap, tap. Just making sure his head's in one piece. Ortega with that hop side kick to the lead knee. Rangefinder.
And Brian Ortega's not breathing heavy. He's still bouncing and moving. The Korean Zombie's down 2-0. And now, because he got hurt so bad, he can't even attack in the way that he's used to.
That's exactly it, DC. There's going to be some hesitation in the Zombie now. Powerful body kick from Ortega.
That was finding the liver as well, I think. I've noticed Korean Zombie's guard a little lower after that one. Ortega's been very cool all week. You wouldn't have known he'd been away if it wasn't the narrative that was pushed really hard by all members of the media. It is the storyline, but he hasn't missed a beat.
Well, he's gotten better, right? He took the time off to get better, to improve. And you never know what happens to an undefeated fighter when they take their first loss, especially in the championship, in the way that Brian did. But if you look at him today, opposed to back then, he looks like a better fighter.
And he had a couple of surgeries as well, DC, in the time that he went away, so everything's been fixed up good.
I like when Zombie swarms with combination punches because at least one gets through the guard of Ortega.
Well, again, this round is starting very good for Sung Jung. He's doing good to start. He has to stay the course, though, if he hopes to win this round and ultimately win this fight.
Zombie in the center of the octagon. These two changing positions where they want to do their work. But Ortega's pretty happy circling around the perimeter.
Oh, that was a nice level change, straight left to the body. And the jab of Ortega's doing him some real, he's doing a good job at managing the distance between the two.
Well, Ortega has the Korean Zombie very confused right now. He's reaching down, grabbing his leg. He's throwing the jab. Like, look at this. He's just giving him so many things to think about.
100% DC. It's a very varied attack from Ortega.
And when you get a counter striker like the Korean Zombie, they're used to countering punches, right? He's not used to countering all these different actions, so he doesn't know where Brian Ortega is going to be.
And this is the smart approach from Brian Ortega. Keep reaching for that lead leg. First of all, it reminds Zombie that the takedown's there. But then once he feels comfortable that Ortega's just using it as a feint, that also opens up the takedown for him.
For sure. And where I said the round started good for the Korean Zombie, now Brian Ortega has thrown and landed so many strikes unanswered.
There it is. Can he finish it? Beautiful strike on the break from Ortega.
Oh, Brian Ortega looks fantastic tonight.
It's that new streamlined haircut that he's got. No wind resistance in his forward movement. He looks so much quicker than normal. Really good decision making in his strikes as well.
Last few seconds in this third round. He tries that spinning elbow again, and he makes the Zombie eat the toes.
Ready. Fight.
All right, round number 4. Teddy Atlas.
Shout out to Teddy Atlas. I stole his phrase, water in the basement, and that's exactly what Brian Ortega's doing at the moment. He's slowly chipping away at Zombie. We're seeing a higher percentage of strikes landed to the legs from Brian Ortega, slowing the Zombie down, disabling that lead leg. This is better for Zombie, though. This is where he needs Ortega, backed up against the fence where he can unload those combination strikes.
Well, this is what he has to do, right? Because staying at range and taking his time has not benefited him. Brian Ortega is up 3 rounds to 0, in my opinion. And if he does not pick it up, he's going to be on the bad end of a decision.
And statistically, this is his best round of all of his fights. He's the most dangerous in the 3rd round. But he's so patient in this fight. He's taking his time. Oh, sorry, 4th round. This fight's flying by. We're going to need a few more rounds.
So John Gooden alongside Daniel Cormier, Dan Hardy here for the main event. Ortega versus the Korean Zombie. And Ortega starting to feel himself now, exploring with that jab and landing that big, lively left hand.
And snapping his way into range, giving the Zombie different looks every time he steps in. So it's difficult to start setting him up and counter.
It's crazy. This Brian Ortega, in his last fight, he stood at the edge of Max Holloway's punches. Now he's moving, countering. I mean, he looks like a striker. This does not look like a jiu-jitsu-based fighter right now.
He's going after this takedown. Oh,
beautiful strike there. Oh, he's cut the Zombie. He's cut the Zombie on his eye. Looks like it was from that short right hand that he landed.
That was sensational work, DC, chasing a takedown and striking towards the end.
But even that,
there's a big elbow.
He hurt him. He hurt him bad. But even that takedown, right? Brian Ortega said that he used to hate wrestling. Now he's working on it.
Zombie doesn't like it. He doesn't like, and the referees.
Wow.
That's because the Zombie was wiping at it. That's exactly why he stopped it. Because the Zombie's acknowledging that that blood is running into his eye. Sometimes you got to get your game face on.
Yeah, it's going off to the side though. It's not going into the eye.
He'll be fine.
It's good? Okay, we go.
Look at this. We've got Ortega runs him into the fence.
Oh, he's already bleeding actually on the shot.
Fight.
It's the short right hand here is really nicely chosen though. Just clips the side of the head of Zombie.
What do you think about that though, DC? The fact that Sung Jung was really pouring at his eye there. It obviously felt bad for him to give it so much attention.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, or maybe it was because it looked like the cut came on the takedown, so I don't know if the heads came together. I don't know what happened, but Brian Ortega looks phenomenal right now.
It looked to me like a potential clash of heads as Ortega was closing distance. These things do happen, unfortunately, but it's not a problematic area for Zombie. The reason it was stopped, though, for the doctor check is because he was wiping at it.
Well, and if the doctor thought that maybe it was a clash of heads and he was wiping at it, he would stop it to check. Or the referee, I mean.
There's a fight that stands out to me, and it was on The Ultimate Fighter. It was Edwin Dweez got caught with a shot and opened up. and he actually took the fighter down and was ground and pounding him whilst holding the cut closed with one hand. Sometimes you got to work around these things. Zombie needs to pick his pace up. Ortega's nearly doubling his output on total strikes landed, 81 to 47. Oof. Nice shots by Ortega.
Ortega cracked him with the right hand. These guys have been waiting a very long time to share the octagon. More than that, get hands on one another.
Even defensively, Brian Ortega looks much improved. He looks much improved defensively. I know we're speaking a lot about his offense and his kicks and his punches, but he looks so much better defensively. He does not even look like the same fighter.
And if we think back to when he was in the dressing room warming up, we saw Tiki Gosen throwing hooks around the sides, and Ortega was covering, and countering. And it's prepared him perfectly for what he's seeing from the Zombie right now, who's winging lefts and rights around the sides of the guard, and Ortega's catching them on his arms and leaving himself in the pocket ready to counter if he chooses.
Last 40 seconds in the fourth round here on Fight Island in this main event. The winner of this contest gets Alexander Volkanovski, of course the champion of the 145-pound division.
You can see how comfortable Brian Ortega is now. He's cruising at this stage. Beautiful level change there. Good defense by Zombie so far.
Last few seconds, however. Still goes after it. Spins to land the elbow, misses. Round 4 done.
Here we see as Brian Ortega reaches in for the leg and drags the Zombie close. He lifts his head up, and there's an unfortunate clash there, completely incidental and not intended by Ortega as he was closing distance, just trying to get good head position. There we can see the blood start to flow from the eye of Zombie. Last round, though, I don't think it's going to affect this fight.
Ortega was warned just to mind his head, but as Dan said, totally unintentional. They touch him up. Get ready for the final 5 minutes of this top of the tree featherweight clash.
Well, you heard Eddie Cha telling the Zombie, you got to punch more. You've got to do more. This is the last round. You cannot be patient anymore. More boxing, more punches. He's got to try and get Brian Ortega out of there.
And you've got to think Brian Ortega knows where he's at on the scorecards here. He's expecting the Zombie to push the pace in this fifth round and try and get the finish, try and land something significant. Beautiful low kick.
DC, I'm looking forward to discovering what the strategy is for both of these guys. You know, Ortega's strategy, whatever it is, he seems to be sticking to it very, very well.
Oh, very nice.
I mean, he is just mixing it up so well, man. He's grabbing the leg, letting go, throwing the punches.
That was a nice attempt to drag the leg to a lead elbow, which I can't think I've ever seen that before in the octagon.
Yeah, he's getting very creative tonight.
Nice. We're really seeing Brian Ortega take on a second stage of his career. This is a dangerous fighter in this division.
Well, they went into the lab and they recreated him, right? They went and chipped away at all the bad things, and they fixed them, and they improved them. And now he is standing for 21.5 minutes with Sung Jung and winning the vast majority of these exchanges.
And this kind of performance, beautiful snapping left. This kind of performance makes me very excited about him potentially having a title shot, because he bookends the champion's fighting style. He's got good long-range striking, very patient, but we know he's got that neck attack, which makes him incredibly dangerous if the champion closes him down. And we're really seeing some blood coming from the eye now of Zombie, which has been emphasized by the jab.
And Alexander Volkanovski, right? A fantastic wrestler. Do you take down Brian Ortega, or do you stand with him? And this version of Brian Ortega is a problem for everyone.
You mentioned the submission threat, Dan, of Brian Ortega. We have to obviously mention Henner Gracie, who has remained part of the setup for T-City.
When Brian Ortega said, hey, if I got to leave anybody, I leave my jiu-jitsu coach, and I watched the way he's fighting today, right? If I have to lose anyone, I'm confident in my jiu-jitsu. Well, bringing these strikers with you obviously has paid dividends, because look at the performance he's putting on the Korean Zombie right now.
And remember that fight between Yair Rodriguez and the Korean Zombie. It went down to the final seconds. And of course, Brian Ortega is never out of the fight. He's got 3 of the biggest statistical comebacks.
And when you look at the Korean Zombie, right, it seems like he has not gotten out of first gear, even as he's losing the fight. You start to question, is this one of those fighters that needs the crowd? Whereas we said Justin Gaethje did better. He was able to stay aware and stay composed without the crowd. Does the Korean Zombie need the crowd to push him and get him going and fighting with that Zombie style?
And you could even see the hesitation when Zombie is in punching range. He's not willing to just throw like he normally does. He's trying to find the perfect shot, which is allowing Ortega to kind of pick at him. He's using that long side kick to the midsection to maintain the distance, stinging him with the jab, controlling the lead hand.
There's never been a more clear case of not finishing takedowns paying such strong dividends as it has tonight for Brian Ortega. But because he has not allowed Sung Jung to just walk him down by just picking at his leg, even though he's not taking him to the ground, it keeps the Korean Zombie hesitating.
Well, it hasn't stopped the Zombie coming forward like you would expect. Still always in the fight, looking for that finish. Possesses some of the most powerful hands at 145 pounds.
Last minute as well, last 45 seconds. Zombie trying to close distance. Ortega's still quite happy to stand and counter, though.
Well, Brian Ortega has never been knocked down, has never been dropped and stopped. So he's got a lot of confidence in his chin. So when the Zombie's going forward, he's okay with standing there, even though that was a big left hook by the Korean Zombie.
And Ortega approaching a personal best for significant strikes landed. And we don't know the result, but if he does come away with a win against the Korean Zombie after what he's been through.
Oh, man, look at that. Think about the improvement, though, right? Some of the times that he's had to come back late in fights, he was behind in the stand-up. He has completely outclassed the Korean Zombie on the feet tonight.
That might be the best jab in the division right now. Beautiful performance by Brian Ortega. Just highlight after highlight throughout this fight. Brian Ortega, you know, he started patient, he picked his shots, he landed some very, very significant power shots, which the Zombie was able to come through. This one being the most well-placed of all. Caught Zombie rushing forward. Nice front kick to the face. Just happy, slowly dismantling the Korean Zombie, picking him apart, keep threatening that single leg as well, reminding him that this is an MMA fight. A really, really impressive performance from Brian Ortega that sets him in a strong position, not only as a contender, but also, you know, as a martial artist in this division of martial artists. I mean, anybody watching that, any featherweight, any weight division, they're going to watch that and be impressed with that performance.
Right, time now to get the official reckoning. Here's Joe Martinez.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards. All 3 judges have it. 50-45, your winner by unanimous decision, Brian T. City Ortega!